The Fountain of Youth, Waters of Eternal Life, The Adventures of Arin Cade. The Caribbean sun was a relentless force, beating down on the dense jungle as Arin Cade squinted at the faded parchment in his hand. He'd found it tucked away in an old explorer's chest, a map covered in cryptic symbols that promised a path to the legendary Fountain of Youth. Legends claimed its waters could heal any ailment, restore vitality, and grant a form of eternal life. Arin adjusted the straps of his worn leather pack, a determined glint in his eye. "Legends or not," he muttered to the humid air, "I have to see this with my own eyes." He plunged into the jungle's embrace, where the world transformed into a wall of green. Thick vines and gnarled, twisting roots snaked across his path, forcing him to hack his way forward with a well-worn machete. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and exotic flowers. Above him, birds with impossibly vibrant plumage circled and called, their cries echoing through the canopy. In the distance, the faint but constant roar of waterfalls served as a compass, guiding him deeper into the uncharted territory. The heat was oppressive, but Arin's focus was unbreakable. Every snapped twig, every rustle in the undergrowth was a sign to be noted. After hours of trekking, he spotted something out of place. Partially hidden by moss and ferns was a stone marker, ancient and weathered. As he cleared away the growth, he saw that it was carved with symbols that matched the ones on his map perfectly. He followed the direction it pointed, and soon found another, and then another. Each marker was a breadcrumb, leading him further into the jungle's heart. One of them had a distinct arrow carved into it, pointing toward a particularly dense section of the forest. A realization dawned on him. "These are clues," he whispered, a thrill running through him. "Not just directions. This is a test." Following the trail of stone markers, Arin eventually arrived at the edge of a wide, gaping chasm. Far below, a river of rushing water glittered with an unnatural blue-green light, its roar echoing up the sheer rock walls. On the other side of the chasm, a series of thick, sturdy vines hung like pendulums, swaying gently in the breeze. This was the first true puzzle. There was no bridge, no easy way across. He took a deep breath, studying the rhythmic motion of the vines. He had to time this perfectly. Taking a running start, he launched himself into the air, his fingers wrapping tightly around the first vine. It swung him out over the chasm, the wind whipping past his ears. The rocks below looked impossibly sharp. At the peak of his arc, he let go, flying through the air for a heart-stopping moment before grabbing the next vine. Again and again, he repeated the motion, a dangerous dance of timing and nerve. He swung, released, and caught, his muscles straining with the effort. Finally, with one last desperate leap, his feet landed solidly on the far side of the chasm. He stumbled forward, his heart pounding in his chest. As his breathing returned to normal, he saw a stone pedestal standing near the edge. Carved into its surface was a riddle, the letters worn by time but still legible. "Only the heart that seeks, not the hand that takes, shall find the path to life eternal." Arin read the words, then read them again. A slow smile spread across his face. It wasn't about power or possession. It was about purpose and respect. "Patience, not greed," he said aloud, nodding to himself. Got it. The message was clear. His intentions would be judged as much as his skills. With the riddle's wisdom fresh in his mind, Arin continued his journey, following the clues that now seemed less like a map and more like a conversation with the island itself. The path led him to a magnificent waterfall, its waters crashing down into a serene pool below. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, just another beautiful feature of the jungle. But his map showed something more, a hidden entrance concealed behind the powerful curtain of water. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Arin carefully approached the cascade. The spray soaked him instantly, and the roar was deafening. He found a narrow ledge and cautiously stepped behind the water. The world outside vanished, replaced by a surreal glowing cavern. The air was cool and still. Bioluminescent plants and fungi lined the walls, casting a soft, ethereal light across a network of sparkling pools and streams. Suspended platforms of rock and natural stone bridges formed a complex maze over the cavern's floor. As he looked closer, Arin noticed intricate patterns in the moss, growing on the stones, subtle lines and shapes that looked like arrows, guiding him forward. "Nature itself is the guardian," he whispered in awe, his voice barely disturbing the sacred silence. He was walking through a living sanctuary. As Arin ventured deeper, nearing what felt like the heart of the cavern, the water in the central pool began to stir. Ripples spread across its surface, not from a disturbance, but from something rising from within. Two massive jaguar statues, carved from dark rock and embedded with shimmering crystals, began to move. Their stone limbs ground against each other as they stood, their eyes flaring to life with a brilliant green glow. Arin froze in his tracks. These were not mere statues. They were ancient, mechanical guardians, a fusion of nature and ingenuity, designed to protect the sacred spring from all intruders. The jaguars moved with a fluid, predatory grace, blocking his path. Their glowing eyes seemed to bore into him, judging his very soul. For a moment, Arin's hand drifted towards his machete, a purely instinctual reaction. But then the riddle echoed in his mind. Only the heart that seeks, not the hand that takes. He understood. This wasn't a battle to be won with force. He let his hand drop, relaxed his posture, and took a slow, deliberate step forward. He bowed his head in a gesture of profound respect, acknowledging their power and their purpose. He then carefully continued along the stone path, making sure not to touch anything unnecessarily, his movements slow and reverent. The guardians watched his every move. Then, as if satisfied with his intentions, they stepped aside, their green eyes dimming slightly as they granted him passage. Finally, after passing the guardians, Arin reached his destination. He stepped into a circular chamber that held a pool glowing with a soft, golden light. Tiny, delicate waterfalls trickled from crystal stalactites on the ceiling, their drops creating a gentle, melodic rhythm as they hit the water. The air shimmered with a fine mist that felt cool and clean on his skin. And there, at the very center, a natural spring bubbled gently, the source of the cavern's light and life. This was it. The fountain of youth. Arin knelt at the water's edge, his reflection staring back from the golden surface. He slowly dipped his hand into the pool. A soothing, inexplicable warmth spread through his fingers, up his arm, and throughout his entire body. It was a feeling of pure vitality, of deep cellular healing. He looked at the water, at the crystals, at the living light of the cavern, and he finally understood the truth. The fountain wasn't magic in the way the legends described. It wasn't a supernatural curse-breaker or an elixir for immortality. It was a rare natural spring, infused with unique minerals and geothermal energy, a geological wonder with extraordinary healing properties, preserved for centuries by its clever, ancient guardians. "The real treasure," he said softly, a smile of pure wonder on his face, "is nature itself." But his final test was yet to come. As Arin explored the chamber, a low grinding sound echoed from the walls. The cavern began to shift and change. Water levels in the surrounding pools started to rise, and some of the stone platforms he had crossed tilted at dangerous angles. The guardians were giving him a choice. He could take what he came for, perhaps filling his entire canteen with the precious water, and leave quickly. Or he could respect the sanctity of this place and help preserve it for the future. The riddle's words came to him one last time. The heart that seeks, not the hand that takes. Greed would be his undoing. He made his choice carefully. He took out a small glass vial, filling it with just enough water for study. Then he turned back and found the stone marker he had slightly moved upon entering. He carefully replaced it, ensuring it was exactly as he had found it. As he did, the cavern responded. The grinding stopped, the water levels receded, and the shifting platform settled back into place. A gentle, approving glow pulsed from the fountain. The jaguar guardians watched him silently from their pedestals before their light faded completely, and they retreated into their dormant stone forms. Arin retraced his steps, his heart light. He moved with a new sense of purpose, carefully crossing the platforms and swinging back across the chasm's vines. As he stepped out from behind the waterfall, the cascade shimmered behind him, hiding the entrance once more as if it had never been there. Back in the jungle's sunlight, he felt a renewed sense of energy, a deep-seated vigor that came not just from the water, but from the profound experience. It was the satisfaction of knowing he had respected the jungle and its most profound secret. He looked at the small vial in his hand. Youth isn't just a fountain, he said to himself. It's courage, respect, and wisdom. Hiking back toward the coast, the jungle no longer felt like an obstacle, but a beautiful, living world. Arin thought of all the explorers who had come before, their quests for the fountain of youth driven by greed and a desire to conquer nature. They had all failed because they had missed the point entirely. He smiled, knowing he had learned the true lesson of the legend. With the vial of water safely tucked away and his heart full of wonder, Arin Cade looked out toward the horizon, where the sun met the sea. Another adventure was already calling his name, another legend waiting to be uncovered. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures.